All right, you legends. My brother and I are ready to roll.
Ready to go.
We're going to hit the road. This is the first very cold day we've had. It's about 7 Celsius outside, 40, 45, 46 degrees. It's cold. So I'm not messing around. I'm cranked up. I warm stuff on. All right, my brother. Let's hit the road. On this ride, Paul and I left Northampton. We rolled into the woodlands. We went directly to Research Forest. After passing Sterling Ridge, we took Branch Crossing on Research Forest. That we headed out on 1488, went up Mount Magnolia, and that's 149. We started filming there all the way into Springbranch. Just the two of us. We decided to go ahead and build endurance on this ride because October was kind of like a rest month, so now we're kind of building back up for next season. So we went all the way through the forest. That's off camera, and then we got to 149 there. We started to film. We filmed all the way back into Montgomery. We continued straight on 149. Keenan cut off, cut through the neighborhoods. By the time we got to our favorite road, we turned on the camera to kind of wrap up the ride and bring things in. We ended up riding in excess of about 7 hours. It started out cold. It got nice and mild by the time we're done. I think you'll enjoy what we put together for you.
We're on 149, headed north. We're building endurance today. Took a while to get the camera out, man. Everything sticks. Glove sticks, camera sticks.
You know, once you start wearing winter stuff, the handling is a little off until we get acclimated.
Yeah.
Just when we did that exchange right there, this stick was stuck to the glove. The gloves have a palm that is designed to keep your hands on the bars securely, but that also doesn't allow you to really handle the camera like we used to. There's some cows on the left I'm pointing to. They're looking at us like we owe them money. That's what I told them.
I like these gloves, the way they hold the camera.
Oh, really?
It doesn't slide or...
Paul's face is covered. That's why he sounds like that. He's got his neck warmer over his mouth. It's 5 Celsius. It's cold.
hold it in place nicely.
Our weather always changes, so we'll wear stuff that breathes really well. So it's nice and warm now. And then when the day warms up, we don't have to shed much. So all I did was take off my gloves later. So the quality gear, you know, makes a big difference. It wicks moisture so you're not wet under there, which helps keep you nice and dry and warm. So the goal of this ride is to be mostly zone 2. So we're carrying a lot of food. I'm only carrying 1 bottle because when it's cold like this, I don't drink as much. Plus I drink before clipping in. The idea is to keep the cadence high and build those capillaries. That's what really makes you go fast when you need to, by building a solid foundation. There were a lot of excuses and stuff being made on the GroupMe app. So we weren't sure if those guys were going to ride or not. So we did not want to have any delays. We just headed out. So we could use our time for riding.
So the way we did this ride, once we got the 149, Paul did a lot of pulling, and I've got that on camera. So right here, I'm pulling, and then when we get to 149 in a few kilometers, he's going to take over the lead. And then I think when we get back to Springbranch Road, I take over. So that's what we do on our rides. And since it's just the two of us, we get a great workout. The effort is low, but the idea is building. That's the emphasis. And you need to stay focused on what your plan is for each ride you do. So even if we had more riders, we would try to stay in the same zone, either by being in the group if they're going really fast, which keeps you in the zone most of the time, or if they're going slow, by pulling or staying off the back. You have to focus in that manner.
Yep.
And the range mostly for zone 2 for me anyway is 168 power to 240, something like that. You have to do it by range. Power jumps all over the place. Earlier in this week, we had a front that came through that brought this cold air, and it was very windy and gusty. And we saw evidence of it because at our home on Friday, we lost power. So it came back after probably 15, 16 hours, I think. But the winds, you know, the tree limbs fall and they take down the electric wires. That's what we're dealing with. So it was nice to come out on this Saturday, 2 days later, and not have to deal with gusty winds. So at this point, we're approaching Keenan Cutoff Road. We go ahead and exchange the camera here. Paul takes the lead. I believe we're already past the Keenan Cutoff. When we're exchanging the camera, we're at the intersection. We're heading towards Springbranch Road. We're on 149 headed north. I like this direction that takes us to Springbranch Road. I think it's more challenging going north. So the weather in our area, when it gets cold, it may start out, 5 Celsius, 7 Celsius, which is like 46. When we're going north, it's going to feel colder.
Tell me he didn't see that car?
Right here, that car acted like he was surprised that guy was turning.
It seemed to surprise him.
That's what I'm telling Paul. It's like he came up on the guy turning left like the guy was not visible. They always want to be multitasking instead of driving the automobile. But we're approaching the turn soon. I think we're gonna descend for a bit before we turn. But these areas here, this is all up and down. We ended up coming back on this same road from Montgomery because we hadn't done it in a while. And it was a lot of fun. It was a nice variety. I'm on the road because it's clear. We're going to be turning. There are 3 cars coming the opposite way, but it's a blind hill. So I told him cars up because you can't see them.
It's 3 of them.
I saw them as they were descending from the other side, so I knew they were coming. So we always keep our eye on them as we turn, and then we keep our eye left here to make sure there's no car. You don't cut the corner or anything. So this is Springbranch Road. So you have to traverse busy roads to get to where you need to go. This is a lovely day. It's fair.
Still a little cool, but it says 47 degrees.
Yeah, it's cold. That's cool. So what happens, the stuff that I'm wearing an aero jersey. Paul's wearing an aero jersey. I believe he's got like a thermal base layer. I'm just wearing a standard base layer because I run a little hotter. But I've got on a warm wool cap that goes over my ears and everything. It's important that you protect your extremities. See my wool cap? Makes a big difference. As it warms up, all I do is I flip that up over from over my ears. Big difference in thermal regulation. Listen to that wind.
This is where the racer dog lives.
There's a dog on the left here. He's not out this morning, but he races us and he stays off the road.
He stays off the road. That's why I call him racer dog.
It's a big farm. Usually we see him coming from about half a kilometer away.
This glove sticks to the camera.
That circle. Look at those donkeys.
There's a couple of donkeys in the yard, Paul. I don't know if the camera really did them justice. You can't really see them that well. They're just standing there doing nothing. You know, it's like they'll stroll around or something. Well, you know, you need to get out either by yourself or with your mate. Depending on what your goals are, you don't want to ride hard the entire season. Get out and build your engine, build your endurance, get a strong foundation. That is critical to any training program. Without a foundation, your fast won't be very fast.
Yeah.
And plus, this is when you get all your muscles and ligaments, you build the muscle memory and get used to being on the bike. So you don't have aches and pain. If you're having any pain, shoulders, hands, wrists, whatever, see a bike fitter and get that resolved. You're not supposed to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That means your weight is not properly distributed. That comes from having an improper fit. When you're building your base, try to spin a higher cadence most of the time. It really builds muscle memory. I call this dog Kamikaze. This is the house that the dog came out and took out Dave. Those of you who saw the video, that's the house he used to reside in. I don't know if he's still there because the gate's open and we haven't seen him the last few times. I'm gonna call him the Kamikaze dog. But we always watch for them whenever we come out here. So it's a lot easier to spin a high cadence to get yourself in shape than to muscle gears because it's just a painful way to get fit. The best way to get in shape is to build your endurance over a period of time by consistently training in the proper zones. This entire ride, we kept our gearing very moderate and focused on our form and being smooth. We also, there's a section coming up where we'll talk about how to ride the climbs because we're going to visit rolling terrain. You don't need to ride the climb in anger every time you get there. You're not going to be able to stay in your perfect low zone the whole time, but keep the gearing low and ride the climb comfortably. When you're building, don't be concerned about your speed. That's insignificant. Focus on the effort, as always. We're going into the wind. Of course, the north wind brought the cooler temperatures. I believe on this day it was out of the northwest. So we're going westerly, so the wind's blowing from the right and in our face.
Take this off.
Yeah. What came off?
I'm taking the light off my bike. I had pushed down on my light and the little harness that it sits in, it disengaged partially. And then I just noticed it, so I didn't want to hit a bump and have my light fall. It's the bump rigger. So I just took the head off and put it in my pocket. I installed it later.
It'll come off.
It goes back in.
Yeah.
So when we ride, Paul and I don't stop. On this ride, we did not stop. Paul has 2 bottles. So later in the ride, we just ended up splitting his second bottle. And the next time we do a ride like this, I'm just going to take 2 bottles so we don't have to stop. Because in the winter, with 2 bottles, we can ride for 6 hours. We don't have to stop because we both drink before we leave. And those bottles hold a lot. That's 500 milliliters each. 550, actually. That's the elite bottle. I love them. They work really well. We're coming to that climb. It's around 9%. My head unit showed that. I stayed to the right when I'm climbing this because it's steeper there because I want to work as hard as possible. You know, stay in a moderate gear. Don't be shy. You downshift. You just want the legs to do some work, but you don't need a brake form. So we only stopped for health breaks in the woods. So we didn't visit any stores or anything. It was a very efficient ride. You see the white stripes on the back of those tights? The sun is doing that. When you're not in the sun, they look kind of gray, but they're very, very bright. You can see the sun does that. When headlights hit them, they really light up. Just a nice design. I think we're over the steepest pitch. So it levels off here a little bit, and then it's gonna pop to maybe 1.5%, 2% up there. So when you ride these kind of repeated climbs, you need to really measure your effort. So it took me right to sweet spot. And all I'm doing is just keeping the gear to where it's moderate. I'm on top of it. And I find a comfortable cadence. And right here, it kind of bites a little bit. So if you have a climb that you struggle on, this is the time to go ride it and get familiar with the undulations. And then when it's time to go harder on it, you're kind of familiar. I've got a cobweb on me that he sees. He's going to tell me to get on the other side so he can pull it up. We get cobwebs when we go under the trees. It's like a long string just flying in the wind. The spiders are building traps.
Trees. The spiders
They're trying to catch cyclists, I guess. So he pulled out. I ended up pulling one off of him later. It's on camera. I'm talking to the cows over there.
That's fine. We'll get it when we stop.
Yeah, I got it.
I didn't feel them, but I ended up seeing his. It's like a long cobweb string. They string the cobwebs from tree to tree, so they're hunters. In our house, we don't kill spiders. I always tell the girls, spiders are good bugs.
The spider string that went across the road.
They kill other bugs.
Trap bugs.
I felt it on me, and then I went on the side of you. It was like this on the back.
I didn't feel it at all. Yeah, I like this road.
Yes, this is one of my favorite roads. Always quiet. Doesn't matter when you get out there. So by training high cadence from time to time, you need to do all of them. And when you get with a group and the speeds are changing, you're more easily adaptable to those variations. Because, if you just train at 75 RPMs all the time, or 80 RPMs like some triathletes do, you're just used to a certain rhythm. And then when speeds start changing, it's a challenge for you. I like to vary my cadence, I vary my gearing. It makes the ride more interesting than just riding one gear for hours. And plus, where we ride, you really can't do that anyway. So we really work on our fit. When we change cleats on the shoes, we'll really make sure they're dialed in. I am very, very particular. I can feel if anything's off. And my body would tell me if the cleat's off, I may get an ache in my knee right away. I can just tell. I don't like anything pulling on me. I like my legs to be neutral. So I really pay attention to that. And that's not often. Every time you're making changes, when I'm changing cleats, I mark around them before I change them. But yeah, you can't ignore how your bike feels. We'll ride too many hours to do that. And everything has to be right. Your contact points, if they're not right, your shoulder can hurt, your wrist, elbow. If you're stretched out too much, your elbow will hurt, or even your shoulder if it has too much pressure on it. And you've got to learn to relax when you go hard. If you pull on the bars too much and grab it too hard during a hard ride, your hands can go numb because you cut off the circulation because you're gripping the bars so hard. I shifted a big chain ring here. So if you have ambitions, you should be able to go out for multiple hours by yourself or, when possible, with a mate and get the Ks in. That's what it takes. We leave early in the morning on Saturdays because I've said it before. If we try to leave later and say, let's wait till the day warms up, stuff always comes up that interrupts. We leave at 6:30, 6:45. I think we left a little later on this ride, but by 6:30 we're getting ready to get out. Everybody's still sleeping. We get it out of that way, and then we have the rest of the day to use this energy from the ride to get us through the day. I always try to work out in the mornings wherever possible, because if I work out in the evening, it keeps me up. The road's going up. I downshift because I don't want to go harder. I want to stay in the same zone. You can see my heart rate going up. So we're right at the top of zone 2 right now, so I want to keep it there. So I downshift. Paul is standing. I choose to sit here. I get the camera here, and because of those gloves, I have to sit up and change hands because they don't spin around in the particular gloves I'm wearing. The gloves I'm wearing were a little cold when we started because they're really best from 10C and up. And you've got to look at your wardrobe and make sure you have gloves for very, very cold weather versus cool weather. Because not all long-fingered gloves or full-fingered gloves are created equal. You have to look at the temperature ranges they're made for. Paul's wearing the Sportful glove that is designed for very cold weather. And what I like about it is I ended up using it on Sunday mornings, right? What I like about it is not bulky, but it's very warm. By the time you get above, say, 18 Celsius, you end up taking them off, which is perfect because by removing the gloves, that's another way to keep your temperature regulated, and you don't have to mess with your tights or anything else. So we didn't have to shed anything other than the gloves, and then I lifted up my wool cap from over my ears. That was it. And it got up to like 21C.
When we switch, my brother, look, see how I'm holding it?
Yeah.
I'm telling him how to give me the camera.
It's easier because I can't spin it with these gloves.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I'm telling him how to hand me the camera because with these gloves, they just grab whatever I touch. And
Material they use?
Yeah.
they use a particular kind of suede in there. It feels really good, but it sticks to the bars. When you grab the bars, it's secure.
As long as you hold it the way your fingers are in front of the lens,
Yeah.
nobody will move. Slip it in my palm.
Usually when we come through here with the group, we're going a lot faster, but a lot of times I'm in the same zone because of the draft. So if you're doing an event that say it takes 5 hours to complete or 4 hours to complete, don't feel like you have to ride on your endurance day for the same distance the group will cover. So if they're covering, say, 100 miles, and that's going to take you guys 4 hours to cover, then your longest ride in preparation should be 4 hours. Don't go and try to do 100 miles because by yourself, you won't be going as fast as the group will go. So you go ahead and do the duration of time that you will be working in that group. So if they're doing 100 miles and they do it in 4 hours, your longest ride should be 4 hours, let's say. If you want to do more, that's fine, but you don't have to. Don't try to say I got to do 100 miles. No, I got to do 4 hours because that's how long you're going to be working. Your body does not care how fast you're going to be going. What your body cares about is how long and what effort. The effort and the duration is what the body wants to acclimate to. Don't worry about speed. That's insignificant. The body does not know speed. The body knows how hard it's working and for how long. That is critical. So whenever rider or riders talk about average speed, I always just smile because it means nothing. It's a moving target. It's just a conversation piece, but it's not a training metric.
What am I doing this way?
Yeah.
Up and down.
Get the workout.
So time and effort is what you need to focus on. So whether you're using heart rate or power meter or whatever, it doesn't matter. If you want to hold a certain amount of watts, then you got to decide, okay, how long do I need to train myself to hold this zone for? So you want to hold 450 watts. And if your event calls for you holding that for 10 minutes, then you better make sure you can do that, or you're not going to be riding with the people that matter. I hope you see the relevance there. Because how fast you're going is insignificant. If it's a windy day or the event is uphill, your speeds will be lower. So how do you train for that? You can't. You train to effort. Don't let anybody tell you differently. So stop asking people what the average speed of their ride was. It matters to no one. It's insignificant. So on these rides, we'll ride in the zones for a while. Then sometimes we drop it to zone 1. We can talk in zone 1 or 2, but we don't really worry about keeping it in a particular area. We just kind of go with the ebb and flow of the ride. There are times when, like this road, you can see we have not had a lot of cars going by. So whenever we get in an area like this, we'll go ahead and do the work. Then we save the conversations for the busier roads where we're in the city navigating intersections and so forth. So we'll chat a little more. Then once we get out on the quiet road, we'll start to go again. That's the way you need to train, whether you're with a mate or not. You ride to an area and then you do your workout there. Then you ride back home or whatever. So you use that to warm up or cool down the busy parts of the route. We're coming to the end of Springbranch Road here. And it kicks up. I stand because it feels better. I'm in a larger gear than I would be carrying if I were sitting. When you stand, your bike should track like you see, not all over the road. It should be in control. We're going to turn left. We want to add more kilometers, so we're going to go west, then go north. And then go east and get the Lone Star Parkway and take 149.
Where?
You legends, from 149 headed south. Look at this day, glorious day. Had to take off my gloves. It's warmed up a bit. It just feels fabulous. It's nice and cool. It's probably around 19 Celsius. 68, 69 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're gonna get some clips for you all here.
We're headed south in the Sam Houston National Forest. This is where Paul decides he wants to sit at the front and pull for a long time, so I just kick back and relax. We're headed towards Montgomery. 149 runs all the way from southwest of the Woodlands all the way to Richards and beyond into Anderson. It's just a long
in the
stretch.
Sam Houston National Forest.
There's a long stretch of road. So right now we've gone through the forest using Bethel Road, and we're headed south towards Hidden Forest Road. We're not going to use Hidden Forest today. We're going to stay on 149 because what we did is we off camera went on Bailey Grove. We took Bailey Grove to Johnson Road. Then we went west and then turned back north on the Gorilla Route. We need to film that one of these days because they have put some beautiful new pavement out there. It's a beautiful road now. And it brought us back to 1097, which is what we used to get out here. It is about 20 Celsius, which is 70 degrees Fahrenheit. It feels cooler out here because of all the trees, of course. This is when we noticed that there were a bunch of trees that had fallen due to the wind that came in on mostly Thursday and Friday.
Yeah, let's go straight.
This is where Paul's asking, well, that's Hidden Forest Road on the left. A lot of times we'll turn and go through there, but we're going straight today. We're about 3.5 hours away from finishing the ride, so. So we're halfway. So since we're working on endurance, is I don't draft very closely here because I want to work just as hard sitting behind Paul as I would do if I were at the front. I want to increase my effort for the entire time we're riding. That's why you see such a nice distance between us. A lot of times we will ride two abreast on the quieter roads, on the roads that have wide shoulders. But this road is busier, so we're riding single file. We try not to disrupt the natural flow of the traffic. You see why you can't train the speed? I'm not even pedaling and we're doing 40 kilometers an hour. This is not a
double yellow. He passed in a double yellow.
Yeah, some driver passed 4 or 5 cars in this stretch where there's a double yellow, and that's dangerous because this is a downhill for us. That's an uphill, so your sight lines are affected. That's why they have double yellow. They ignore the safety precautions that people lay out, and then they wonder why they have crashes. But we're going downhill a -2, and we're doing 40K, and I was in like zone 1.
Yeah, I see it.
So yeah, you can't do anything by speed. Yeah, these are the trees that are falling onto the road that have fallen because of the wind. So Thursday and Friday we had gusty winds in excess of 20-some miles per hour. You know, we're talking about 35-kilometer-per-hour winds on Thursday, and it was so gusty that if you were riding, you would have to make sure you had your hands on the bars. There's no traffic coming, so I move over to get Paul from this angle. I think I have removed my gloves because just the fact that I was able to spin that camera, I'm trying to see if I can see my hands. Yep, I've removed the gloves. It's warm enough to where I just put the gloves in my pocket, and then I've already lifted up my hat from over my ears. But covering your ears when it's cold makes a big difference. Anytime it's in the, below 10 Celsius, you really want to cover your extremities really well. I want to show some of the large acreage homes that are out here. It looks like a farm. You can see the barn. There are animals hanging out. So we're in the agricultural area here. Very rural. Listen to the wind. We're on the edge of the forest.
3 climbs coming in a few kilometers. I'm going to show you how to ride them and stay in a moderate zone. You have to learn how to back off and just enjoy and ride the climbs. And stay in your, what I call your green zone.
All those things that you see Paul pointing out is because of the wind. It knocked down all the little saplings, and sometimes there are dead limbs and so forth. And so we like I said, we had power outages in the area because of stuff falling on the wires. There was rain that came with the front, I believe, on Wednesday. Then the wind came on Thursday. That's Bailey Grove Road. We went there and did that earlier and did a wider loop. The road starts to go up here. You can see it. That's why we like to come this way from time to time.
I see the spider web you've been talking about.
He's got a spider web on him. The camera
That's a
won't show it.
long line.
It's long. It's from his shoulder and just waving in the
Wow.
wind. I think when it's clear,
Just
I'm
picked it up.
gonna pull it off of him. I'm gonna tell him to move to the right.
Move to the right. Yep.
Yep.
It was just waving in the wind like a long line. I'm not sure where he picked it up, but we had a bunch of that. I think the wind disturbed the spider's webs. So in a little while, we'll start talking about the climbs coming up and so forth. But this whole stretch, even though it says, it says 2%, you're riding up. So you really have to start getting into some kind of a rhythm here and try to be a little conservative. Because there are 3 climbs. I think one's like 5%. The first one is short and steep. You know, they're not very long. And the last one's kind of long when we get towards Montgomery Park. We got 2 climbs stair-step together. I just stayed right in that corner that's clean. I did not use the road because I saw it. There's a little bit of, those rocks. I don't know where they come from. Probably from the trucks carrying them to work sites. Because people buy those rocks.
So the first of 3 climbs is coming up. There it is. Car back.
I told him car back because I saw that he was going over. And he has a mirror too, so I'm sure he knew that we had enough time for him to do that. But I stayed on the
Find
shoulder.
the right rhythm. Find a gear you can handle. Stay smooth.
You see, it says 5%. It's probably a 5.5%, 6%. This is steep. It gets there in a hurry.
That's the second one.
So now it's gonna level off there a little bit. Nice kicking up just slightly again. But the last 2 are kind of together. So if you go too hard on the one that we just passed, we've had riders do that, and they end up riding alone until we get into Montgomery. See, it kicks back up. I believe this is the second. The third is kind of like 2. I probably bundled
See it
them.
level off and then kick back up after that sign.
Yeah, so
That's
this
the
is
third.
really the second. So right here, this is with climbing, and then it's gonna level off.
Levels off right here.
This is West Montgomery Park. We're approaching is on the left after we finish the climb. The road on the right, Paul and I have gone there just to explore. Dead ends, but it's interesting. Nice neighborhood here. So right here, that's the third climb. and then you're done, and it starts to go downhill. So if you've killed your legs, you won't be able to do much over here. I think this is where Paul decides he doesn't want to be on the front. So when he waves me up, I tell him to wait because we have a lot of cars coming. There are a lot of people leaving the park on the left. That's where we used to come out when we would go to Huntsville and beat ice. We used to drive out there and park years ago. So a bunch of cars, so I check. When I have enough of a gap, I kick through, hand him the camera, and then I get back over. We did a lot of climbing on this ride because we intentionally did Bailey Grove, which has a lot of climbs. And then we went up Johnson to Bethel, which they call the Gorilla Loop. So it was nice. There's a lot of debris over there, but I just stay by the white line. It's kind of busy in this area. We're close to downtown Montgomery.
I know. All over the street.
That's when I realized that, oh, we've been dealing with all these trees falling in the lane. It's because of the wind. Knocked all the dead limbs and young saplings that were weak. They had even blocked one of the entrance to a trail parking in the forest. So right here, we stay by the white line because they got those little ribbed indentations in the shoulder. They really should have put them there because that would have been a nice shoulder to use. So we have to use most of the lane here. Whenever I do that, I've already checked for the other road users because you don't want to just swing out in the lane. And then sometimes you have to just take the lane so they can either wait or move over when they go by. It clears up behind. You see me look at my mirror. That's what I'm doing there. I glance at the mirror. It clears up, so I take the lane. We're going faster anyway. When we're going really fast, I don't like to use narrow shoulders. I like to use the road. You're going fast enough they can wait. Then once we kick up, I see a bunch of cars queuing up behind us, so I'm going to drift to the right. So they can make it, it's easier for them to pass. I'm telling Paul that we're going straight. Because if we turn left at the intersection, that will take us to Taco Corner. We have no reason to go there. So I let him know, let's go straight on here. I think we turn off the camera here.
Favorite road, Honea-Egypt Road, wrapping up this ride.
This is 4 hours into the ride now. It's about another hour since we were filming. We hit Honea-Egypt Road.
All right.
Finish it up.
We're going to wrap it up here.
Indeed.
Every 30 minutes, we threw something in the tank, whether it's a gel, All those granola bar. We take a lot of granola nut bars. You can get them at H-E-B, Sam's, wherever your local grocer would carry that. We like that because the granola stays with you longer, and it's just easier to handle when you're riding. And I'm not talking about riding super hard. So on rides like these, we get the solids in there because you don't want to just do gels. You get tired of it anyway. So if you got little apples that you can cut up, put in a bag, take that with you, or you can make little sandwiches and cut them up into small squares or triangles. That'll work too. Whatever you like to eat, take that with you on a long ride. You don't want to get home hungry. You don't want to be hungry on the bike. You want to finish your rides strong. And if you don't have anything, stop at a store and get some stuff. We like to carry our stuff so we don't have to stop anywhere. I like to carry the granola bars because they're square, rectangular, and they sit up straight in the pocket. So I can put them in the same pocket with my gels. They take up very little room, but they pack a punch. You eat a bar or two, and it goes a long way. It's almost like eating oatmeal. So I'm using a larger gear here, like probably a 5319 or something than what we had used, because this road is somewhat flat at this point. We've been riding for quite a while, and it's almost like I'm getting to be on autopilot, but the effort is the same. We're in zone 2. I'm at the bottom of zone 2. I'm trying to avoid that little ribbed area that's scraped. So I'm riding the edge and dodging the reflectors where I can. Use your hips to do that. Your hips and your eyes. If your bike doesn't fit you, it's hard to keep a straight line. So you see somebody twitching all over all the time when they're riding, and every time they turn around, they're out of control. That's because they have a poor connection to their bicycle. See how a student just sat down? I was right back in the sweet spot. I don't have to find it. The wind is buffeting us more. You can see this area is more exposed. And all I focus on is staying smooth and not working too hard. So I may have downshifted a bit because my effort has gone to the top of zone 2. I don't want to go much higher than that. It's gonna go above that when we come to the last climb, leaving this area anyway. So now is not the time to push hard. And so when you do a ride like this, where your focus is endurance, you're not just locked into zone 1 and 2, but most of the ride, that's where you want to be. And then at the end, if you feel up to it, you can kick it up a little bit. You know, that's the fun part. It's your ride. You know, you can kind of play at the end, you feel like you got something left. But for me right now, for the next month, I want to keep everything as aerobic as possible. It doesn't mean I can't go into higher zones, but I'm not going to be tapping into my glycogen if I can avoid it. I'm not going to be digging deep. That's why you want to build a strong base. So your base is so high that you're not going to be digging, even when you're going faster. I had a flat on the way back, and that's why my pockets are loaded. I've got the spare tube in there. I don't like to leave my tube where we repair it. Take it home. It's a small hole. I'm going to patch it. Use it in something, you know. But if the hole's big, I don't bother. But still, you have to dispose of it. Don't leave it on someone's driveway. They don't need to know you were there. So we don't leave anything behind. So we probably managed to put 80 PSI in that tire, if that. I could feel it was a little soft, but didn't matter. Just something sharp popped the tire, and it was like, we just kept hearing it. I thought it was like a car coming by making that noise. And Paul said, I think you have a flat. And while we were pulling off, the air was still escaping. The hole was that small. It was small, but the thing never stuck in the tire. It just tapped it and came out. And the funny thing is, we were on a clean piece of road, so it was something really tiny. That's why you have to carry what you need. No matter how well you read the road, flats happen. And it happened when we were on a nice rhythm up a climb too. It was sweet. We're enjoying it. I put it in a small chain ring here. If I remember correctly, I believe I did, because we're trying to keep the effort. I think Paul just did the same. Keep the effort reasonable. While he's shifting, I pull away a little bit, but he's gonna ride back up. Everything's got it. We ride steadily here. I'm unzipping because it got hot. There's no wind. As soon as we hit the climb, see how quiet it got? There's no wind. The wind just cut off. And this is about 5% in 2 spots. Right by that light pole on the right, it kicks up a little bit, then it starts to level off. And then for the next kilometer, we're going up. I like coming back on this road because it's a good way to finish the ride, because you're in town. You will see my cadence go up. I'm in the same gear. As the terrain gets more favorable, my cadence will start to increase. I think once I get into the 90s, then I'm gonna shift up. That's the way you climb a mountain. You don't kill yourself. If you've got 10 kilometers to climb, you don't want to kill yourself in the first kilometer. You gotta find out how you're going. You gotta find out what kind of legs you got that day. So right here, I shift up. We got a good rhythm. That's all I'm focusing on. Tempo. I stay as close to the white line as possible so Paul can have a little more room to the left, and we're still using half of the lane. It goes up a little bit here. I'm in the proper gear. I push a little harder. You see my cadence went down a bit, and then it will level off. And then where that sign is in the distance, when we turn, it starts to go downhill. So this is a nice way to finish the ride. You're riding for about 5 kilometers against some nice resistance. Then I go on a big chain ring. Because we're going downhill, I want to keep the rhythm the same. That's my most comfortable position on the bicycle there. That's where I ride most of the time, on the hoods. Except when I'm climbing, then I'll get on the tops. But on flat road, that's where I ride. So we're back in town. We're going to be turning south, which is right. Never really had much of a tailwind. The winds were not very brutal today. Very mild. Probably 10 to 12 kilometers, 6-7 miles an hour. We're back in town and we got to deal with traffic. So we like to turn there's a real quiet street we like to use. The group usually turns here. This is where we come out when we're with the group. They usually turn that way to go home. Paul and I like to go further into the next light and turn left. It has a quieter way to get to 1488. So I start to monitor the traffic in my mirror. That's what I'm looking at. When I glance down, I'm glancing at the mirror. I'm keeping my eye on these guys on the right. I watch that front left tire. That's the first thing that will move. That's your cue to take evasive actions if they're not paying attention. We got one car, and I let Paul know. He happens to be turning left too. So this is part of what we did on Saturday. Get your K's in.